All right, we're live. Greetings, UACers. How are you? Great to be with you as always. And yeah, this is our May monthly Mastermind Hangout. And why do we do these? I think that the live events are great for us to connect, and certainly they're pretty extraordinary in the experience, et cetera. But I think we need to check in, as a group on a rhythmic basis. That's more than just the live events that people can make it to. We also have people in the group that are in various parts of the world, like Australia. Many people come from Australia. So I want to be able to create an environment of stimulation, inspiration, and creativity with a regular kind of a rhythmic touching of the group in varying ways that would include, and I think right now with the monthly Mastermind Hangouts, MMH as I say for short, I think the one of the things I want to see accomplished here is to start featuring people in the UAC, other members that are in the group that are up to things, that are stimulating, that are exciting, that are dynamic, that I think we can all learn from. And we can make this interactive. I think many of you understand the format here. If you're viewing, as I'm looking down at my counter, there's several of you out on the viewing page. There's a Facebook thread there. You can post, you should shout out right there saying, hey, this is so-and-so hanging out from such and such a place. If you have a question or a comment on anything at all, you can also post it there. And then if you have a particular question or comment for me or this month's guest, who is Dr. Stephen Franson, you can also post that there. So you also have the option of coming inside the hangout like Dr. Jared Hinsel has. Just press the button, says join us inside. Don't be shy. I don't think UACers are typically shy. So feel free to join us inside the hangout. But what I'm looking for here, these typically run 30 to 45 minutes. Could run a little bit over depending if there's a lot of question and interaction. But the idea here is just to take a break from our hectic schedules, our hectic lifestyles, all the things that we have going on, and saying, hey, I'm a member of this group. This group has vast resources as far as the curated membership, and I'd like to just now get my head out of the business, out of the alligator pit, as I like to refer to it, and now start to have a little reprieve here, stimulate my thinking a little bit, engage with my brothers and sisters in the UAC, and let that help stimulate my week leading up to the next, and month leading up to the next event. So let me just do a little bit of housekeeping, and then Krista, you might have some things to add, and then Stephen and I will start our conversation. So first, what do we have coming up? Well, I'm very excited to say that coming up in a few short weeks here, I see the thumbs up from Stephen because he's going to be there. We have the Napa trip. So our UAC Legacy Retreat will once again be in Napa Valley, California. I actually was looking at some of the menus today for some of the dinners we're going to be having. I think people who show up, you probably do realize there's a lot of work and detail that goes into organizing these things, but it's a whole lot of fun. We picked some stellar wineries that we're going to be tasting at. Private coaches are already rented. We're going to be in Yountville this year. And why am I saying this? Because I know a lot of you, can't make it, aren't going, whatever. Well, I want to make you feel good. You should show up. We're going to rub it in. So yeah, make sure you're looking at the Facebook thread, and seeing all our great pictures and how much fun we're having.
We're going to stream the whole thing.
You can see the drunk singing on the bus. But Napa, this is every year we have that one event where there's no classroom time. It's just about us getting together, hanging out, talking about things that matter, and also having a lot of fun. So, in reality, for those of you who can't make it to Napa this year, certainly we're going to miss you. I wish you were there. You will be there in spirit, and you'll have your opportunity to go next year. But nonetheless, that's the next UAC event coming up. Where we're going to have a live gathering. If for some reason people want to jump in at the last minute, the answer is I think you can. You'd have to ask Krista. I know there's some limit. Based on the number that we have, we were stretching the limits at some of the wineries. We're going to some very high-end boutique wineries, so we're kind of stretching the limits of how many people will take. But yeah, I think we can wield some influence and get some extra people in if you wanted to come. We'd love for you to be there. Then we have coming up in August our live event out here in Park City, Utah. I have to tell you, it's a beautiful day. I'm looking out. I think I could see probably at least 15 or 20 miles out there into the mountains. It's just gorgeous out here. Summer in Park City. I think most of you, if not all of you, have been here. So it's going to be an amazing time. We have a great slate of guest speakers who are going to be at the August event that I think it's going to be explosive. Varying flavors of people who are going to bring their A+ game, and to be able to get up front and kind of personal with these people in a small group is going to be, I think, extraordinary for you. We have already confirmed. We have Richard Rossi, who is just a phenomenal entrepreneur and marketing genius who has pulled off what I think was one of the greatest entrepreneurial feats I've ever seen. His first company that he built for direct marketing grew from 0 to $135 million in annual revenue. He sold that company, and he was in my accountability group. So I was listening to him as he was talking about the next company that he was contemplating, and he launched that thing out of the blocks, and it was gangbusters. So Richard spoke, I think, about 2 years ago to UAC, and really got a lot out of his presentation. And he's one of those people, he's a great presenter, but it's not like his business isn't running around and giving lectures. He's in a real business as its CEO, but he's got a lot of insights to share about what it means to put together a concept and to market it, and especially does an enormous amount of testing before he pulls the trigger on mailings that cost sometimes millions of dollars. So nonetheless, I think you'll love Richard Rossi. You'll love his spirit. He's very well trained at a lot of the business schools and personal development schools that have been out there, and you'll get a lot of good information from him. We also have Ben Greenfield. I think many of you might know Ben, but Ben's got, I think, the #1 podcast in the fitness arena. I met him at CalGym. The guy, he's a wild man. He's a crazy dude, wickedly smart, young. He's in his, I think, his early 30s, if I'm not mistaken, early mid 30s. And I think he's going to light you up. He's just kind of a no holds barred, entrepreneur that's built huge audiences out there and is doing big things in the world. So I think you'll really dig him. Also, we haven't had for a very long time Garrett Gunderson, who's local to here. And Garrett has been working on some concepts that have never been presented to the UAC before. He and I had a pretty long discussion about it, and he's going to really get you amped up on working on your financial life, and coming to new things there and creating strides for you that I believe will be very, very impactful. So very different presenters on a wide variety of topics. And also, I don't have a confirmation yet, but I'm talking to, as a matter of fact, I'm done here, I'm going to have dinner with him, Paul St. Pilzer. Paul has been working on some phenomenal concepts, and he always is very stimulating to your brain on the macroeconomic side of things and understanding the world, and somehow he integrates that all with personal development and other things that just turn out to be entrepreneurial gold. So you can see we've got an amazing slate of people that are going to be here. Also, I just want to remind everybody that in the summer, most people in UAC, when they come out, stay for not just the weekend, but they will stay for a week. They'll bring their children. They'll enjoy Park City. I think Park City is the best bargain in the world. It's very inexpensive to stay here in the summer, yet the atmosphere is amazing. The camps that they have for kids are unparalleled and also very inexpensive. Live music every night, restaurants, that are really hip and fun. It's just an amazing environment, healthy environment, outdoor environment here in the summer. So if you can, expand your trip, highly recommend that you don't just fly in and jet out if you can avoid it. I'd recommend take a break. Maybe it's 4 days, maybe it's a week. Some of you I think are coming for 2 weeks. I ended up coming here permanently. So you all decide what you think is going to work for you, but I'm really excited for this August event. I think it's going to be spectacular. Okay. Also, I've been editing and working on the final little details of the Better Your Best contest document, which will be going out hopefully tomorrow. So I hope many of you are going to engage. We had, I think, about 18 members or so that filled out contest packages last year. I'd like to even see a bigger pool this year for Better Your Best. We're going to be running it the same way, except we're adding a month. It's going to be August, September, October is where you're going to be tracking your stats. By November 14th, we're going to need your contest package turned in, and then we're going to turn around within hopefully less than a week, announce the 5 finalists, and then the 5 finalists get to come to December, either virtually if they can't make it live, or by showing up there and giving a live presentation. And then we're going to have phenomenal prizes for the people who get there. Everybody wins because everybody's going to be working on improving their game. But then we get to acknowledge a few people who really stood out and have a lot of fun doing it. So last year, people seemed to love it so much that bringing the contest back this year seemed like a natural thing to do. And it's what should achievers do, but get out there and battle for some street credibility, some prizes, and having some fun while they compete with each other.
And it's in Vegas, is that right? December Vegas.
December UAC is we're finally confirmed, right?
Finally confirmed. Cash, sending our deposit. It's a done deal.
All right, so yeah, this hotel, it's pricey as far as it's not going to be that pricey for you to stay there. Actually, I think it's cheaper than the W. But they have a lot of mandates. I had to go and buy all kinds of insurance, for the event for the weekend. We had to jump through a lot of hoops that they pushed us through. They want the whole event almost prepaid up front and then some. It's kind of a crazy deal, but I'm so enamored with this hotel that I really want to get the UAC there. So we are in Las Vegas. This December is mine and Lori's favorite hotel in the world, the Mandarin Oriental. And we're going to have one hell of a time there. And it's going to be a great, great place for us to have the Better Your Best contest. Amongst the speakers there will be, by popular demand, a lot of you guys are requesting him, Rick Sapio. And Rick has got some new and amazing stuff that he's been working on that I can't wait for him to share. It's going to be a hell of an event. So make sure December is blocked out in your calendar. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And who knows? Maybe we'll have a late night at the craft tables one night. So, all right. And incidentally, there is no casino in the Mandarin, just so everybody knows. And that's why I love the hotel. It's very zen and stimulating there. But you need to go outside the hotel to get to the casinos, and that's why I think that hotel is so great, even though it's in Vegas. So, Chris, anything I missed?
I couldn't think of anything at all, really. I was going to mention Las Vegas because that's the most exciting thing ever for us to all be going to Las Vegas together. But yeah, I think you nailed it. I will mention we've been sending out surveys and we'll be sending out surveys. So be on the lookout in your email. We try to keep our surveys short and sweet for you, so it doesn't take up much of your time. We know you're very busy. 2-question surveys. If you just pop in there and answer those questions for us, it helps us help you, help us understand what is best for you, and so be on the lookout for those as well.
Terrific. Yeah. So yeah, please pay attention to those.
Housekeeping.
And we'll probably post them out there on the Facebook page also. It just helps me better serve you. All right. So now I want to just have a special appreciation. Dr. Stephen Franson, our very distinguished UAC member, has volunteered through my invitation to come and let us dig into his life and his happenings and his entrepreneurial ventures a bit. I think most of you know Stephen. Maybe some people are newer to the group, but you've at least heard of Stephen. He does speak quite a bit on chiropractic platforms. He's putting a lot of content out into the chiropractic profession, a lot of programs. Extraordinary chiropractic coaching service that he has with the Remarkable Practice, and other things that he's working on with other UAC members like Dr. Alan Miner. So, and this is what I love to see, is taking a step back and seeing people who come into the group, meet each other, talk to each other, scheme together, create together, and form new ideas and businesses that are targeted toward really filling in voids within chiropractic and maybe within healthcare in general. So, Stephen, thanks so much for spending time with us tonight.
Hey, Patrick, it's my pleasure. Love my UAC family, so I'm excited for tonight.
All right, so let's jump in. Let's do the quick thumbnail as far as what got you into chiropractic, and then practice and the evolution in practice, then how you end up in Remarkable Practice and the other ventures that you're doing.
All right, so I'll do the I think 5-minute version of it. So
yeah, five minutes would be great.
The 5-minute version is I had a sort of a cathartic experience as a child where I had my best friend die of leukemia. And I had this, what I call the best, worst thing that's ever happened to me, where I went through an experience that most 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds don't have to endure or get to experience in this situation. And, you know, I went through this whole process with somebody who was very close to me in my life, who I used to just play baseball with, and we were Weeblos and Boy Scouts together, and you know, we were Alta boys together, walked to school together, the whole deal. We went from doing that together to taking him for chemotherapy treatments and for radiation and that whole just absolute shit circus of cancer treatment for 18 months. And in that process, I learned a great deal about what's important in life. I learned the importance of friendship and faith and family, and definitely grew just an incredible appreciation for health and what it means to be a healthy human being. And the experience of Patrick actually passing was really the breakthrough process for me, because just as he was failing and he was clearly falling apart, and it was one of those situations where everything that they did to him, he was getting worse, visibly worse, and falling apart. And, you know, it was confusing as for a 10 and 11-year-old boy to watch your friend go through that. And I can remember asking, you know, geez, everything that we're doing to him or you're doing to him, he's getting worse. Is there anything we can do for him? And I can just remember the medical doctors just saying, there's nothing else that can be done, right? There's nothing else that can be done. And it just really struck me, because he just got sicker and weaker and sicker and weaker with everything that they tried on him, you know, the best of the best. You know, and these were giving, loving, serving, brilliant people that were doing everything they could to kill a disease and not kill a little boy in the process. But, you know, that failed. And when Patrick died, I can remember sitting with my dad, and I was quiet, and he asked me, how am I doing? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. And he said, what are you thinking about? I said, I've figured out what I want to be when I grow up. And he said, okay, what's that? And I said, I'm going to be a doctor. And he said, that's great, son. What kind of doctor do you want to be? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to be the doctor that makes people stronger. And, you know, at that point, I knew nothing about chiropractic, and I knew nothing about the wellness paradigm, or I knew nothing about above, down, inside. I knew nothing, right? But I just knew that there was something bigger out there. And that was the exact moment that I just figured out what my purpose was, right? So I just never looked back after that. And it was always a pursuit of, what do healthy human beings do? And what does it take to become healthier? And I was just infatuated with it throughout my entire life. I was always just so intrigued by it. And so I grew up as an athlete and got into sports, and ended up going, I went off to college at the UVM. I wanted to become a orthopedic. I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Long story again, short, I injured myself, hurt my shoulder, missed my senior year of my sport in college. And I was studying to be a sports medicine doc. So I had the best of the best. It's the best program in the country. Nobody could help me. And they finally told me, you know, the drugs aren't working. We're going to do cortisone shots. We're going to do a surgery on you, and you're all done. No more sports, no more lifting, no more surfing. And for me at that point in time, that was my identity. So when you lose 30 pounds of muscle and you can't play your sport and do your thing, that's a big impact at 18, 19 years old. So my dad over Christmas break made me go and see his chiropractor. And this poor guy had to put up with me because I was the educated skeptic, right? I showed up knowing that he wasn't going to be able to help me. I was already taught that he couldn't do anything. And this guy, Tom Michaud, he put up with me long enough to actually turn me around and help me get my shoulder back. And for me at that point in my life, that was me getting my life back. So he won my trust, and I was now available to him to hear the story, to hear the truth. And he taught me the truth about how the body really works and how the body really heals. And that resonated with me on a very, very deep level. And it was at that point that I just made the decision, I'm going to become a chiropractor. And it was no looking back after that, Pat. I think the moral of the story there is it was one doctor who spoke into me. And he was a guy who was like really excited about his, not just his life or his lifestyle, which he was, or just about his work, but it was about his mission and his purpose. And that just resonated with me because for a young man, he was the only person, only adult that I knew who was really in love with their work, that they were excited about their work. And that really stuck out to me. And I always say this to chiropractors is don't forget that, because I'm sure there was somebody that spoke into you and everyone on the line here. Don't forget the opportunity and therefore the responsibility that we have to just really genuinely and passionately speak into people about chiropractic, because you never know who's going to quit their job, sell their car, go back to school, and become a chiropractor.
Yeah, I think in part my similar story, because a chiropractor took the time to speak to me. That's what made it happen. So here's what's interesting. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. So now I've woken up. No. So here's what's interesting to me, and most of us get on a track. I can speak from my own experience. You have experience with this. I think many members of the UAC have this experience, and this isn't a conversation that I have in the general chiropractic population because they're struggling to figure out practice. But so we've all had this to practice. We all have a story that is behind it, but somehow we set our sights beyond practice. And it might be multiple practices. It might be, coaching. It might be, my case, developing diagnostic technology, which was filling a need within the profession, as well as all these other things that I do, which I'm not going to bore everybody with because I think you know already. But nonetheless, and this is what brings us up, Stephen. You said, you found that was the purpose. You got hit with the purpose stick, basically, at that point, and then you built the practice. You built the practice that at a point in time eclipsed 1,000 visits a week. I mean, you reached that ultimate success. You figured out systems. I mean, certainly there's the whole story behind the pain of getting there, which I think everybody has. But what is it that caused you to start setting your sights on things also outside of your practice? The remarkable practice, for example, the consulting you do, and you can describe what you mean by enterprise clients, et cetera. I mean, was that a gradual thing? Was there an epiphany? Because many UACers, why am I asking the question? Many UACers are already in additional or parallel businesses. Some are considering it, and I believe that we can learn from each other these varying stages of our careers and perhaps support each other there. So what are your comments on that?
Yeah, so just a brief window into the practice here. My wife Camilla is my partner in all things. We met in school at Life, started our practice in Boston after we did an internship in Arkansas, and then we did an associateship in Virginia, and then opened our practice 21 years ago in Boston. It was just a foot race to see as many people as possible. Like we were really certain around what we wanted to do and the impact we wanted to make in our community. And we were really, truly blessed, right? So whatever success that we enjoyed was just based on, commitment to the principle and patient education, delivering clinical excellence, raising incredible teams, and building great systems, like systematized everything. Because I'm all about scalability, right? Scalability and durability. So, I just knew I wanted to see the masses, and 1,000 a week was that sort of that golden ring. I think that's like the MBA in chiropractic. I wanted 1,000 a week because I covet influence. I covet influence in chiropractic. We can say that here in UAC. I want to be a leader in this profession. I want to take this profession global. I want to be able to have a position of authority and significance so that people will listen to me. And I knew that 1,000 a week, you can walk on the stage and say, this guy saw 1,000 a week. People are like, well, he's going to say something that I can learn. That's just it's a great entree, right? So that became really important, because what's the difference between 800 a week, 1,000 a week, 1,200, 2,600 a week, whatever? It's just a big practice, right? But we did it in like the hardest way possible, right? So we're Gonstead doctors. So we're scoping, gowning, 4 tables, moving people around the room. So, I mean, it's trying to get 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag at all times at that volume, inside of that system. It's a hard way to practice. And eventually I was maxed, so when you're 40 years old and all of a sudden you're maxing, and like people are spilling out the sides, not because we were mishandling them. It's just, we're just running out of space and time. I've added associate doctors, increased our hours, took on more square footage. And we've had 39 associate doctors. So we've had this beautiful program. I'd have 3 associate doctors helping me see these people. And, this whole tiering of associate doctors. So there was another adjusting doctor, there was a reporting doctor, there was an exam doctor. And then, so we had this machine going, but I was just maxed. And I just recognized that, okay, so I'm playing a maintain game. And I spent years with this massive practice just trying to maintain it. It wasn't off purpose. I was just bored. I literally get to the point where I was just like, I don't have this gear. I don't know how to, or I'm not happy not growing, right? So I'm being just really transparent and honest here. It's just like, I got to a point where I'm like, what am I going to do next? And then of course I started thinking about multiple practices, and my wife and her wisdom just completely forbid that. So, you know, she's brilliant, and she knows me. I'm a perfectionist control freak, you know, and I want everything done right. And I couldn't sleep at night if I had 3 or 4 clinics going. And no matter how good the systems were, she is absolutely right. That's just not a good, healthy space for me to go. I would be too restless with also knows that I'm naturally a trainer and a coach, right? This is what I do. I coach. And, you know, you get me in a room, you ask me a question, I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to start coaching and teaching. So I said, I think that's what God's got me hardwired to do. In fact, I was sure of it. So for me, it was wean off the practice, keep my associate doctors in there, running great systems, a great training program in place. So, and I could just start investing my bandwidth into helping more chiropractors. And next thing you know, it's a new growth for me. So now I get to touch thousands of chiropractors who are touching hundreds of thousands of people. So from seeing 1,000 a week to now seeing 265,000 people a week, which feels great, you know, and I want to see 1 million people a week through my docs. So, you know, it's the new growth, and it's infinitely scalable. So I'm in a good place, and I think I'm doing exactly what I'm hardwired to do now.
You're definitely wired different than a lot of chiropractors. And, you know, in UAC, we've done strength finders. And in that strength finders assessment, we got to understand more about ourselves. And, you know, a premise that I operate from is that, you know, you succeed by your strengths, not trying to turn weaknesses into strengths. It doesn't happen that way when you talk about how you're wired. But what I know about you is that you really do dig into systems and scalability as a mandate for how to structure the business of chiropractic. And you also work with several clients out there that have multiple practices, what you call enterprise clients. So can you speak to that a little bit and how you see the world through that lens?
Yeah, so I love strength finders. You know, you're talking to a strategic achiever, focused significance activator, right? So I'm a systems guy, right? So I like to get shit done, right? So that's how I'm hardwired. And I think that I can fill a gap in a lot of practices with doctors who just frankly aren't hardwired that way, because they've got their own gifts and they bring a lot of passion and they're high level and they're visionaries and they can really make a lot of energy and get a lot of particle movement going, but they usually make a mess, right? So they're throwing, you know, particles over their shoulder for their team and everybody else around them to clean up, you know? So I love to be that guy that comes in and helps them bring some order to that growth. So that's it's a scalable growth, and it's not by a pound of their flesh and an hour of their time, right? So ultimately, it's the difference between owning a business and owning a job. And everybody says that, and it's become a bit cliche, but most people don't understand what that means, right? So the difference between owning a business and owning a job is a business is scalable, it's durable, and it's transferable, right? So scalable means that you can do more, you can serve more, you can grow more, you can add more value, capture more value, you can collect more, make more, right? So, but it's not all by the pound of your flesh and an hour of your time. It's about leveraging other people and communications, technology, and systems, right? And then this durability just implies that you can do more, grow more, serve more, add more value, capture more value, but it's not all done by you. In fact, it can be done in your absence, okay? So you can change your schedule, claw back your time freedom, spend more time with your family, maybe go on vacation, maybe pull yourself out of the practice entirely. Whatever your vision is and what are your heart desires, that's durability. And then of course, transferability, which is the ability to create an asset, right? So to create something that you could build it to sell it. And that's going to require that you have systems in place. So all of this sort of natural tendency of mine and this passion of mine to systematize everything for scale, it serves doctors in all 4 chapters of their career.
And when you say 4 chapters, you talking about those 4 dimensions you just laid out, or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, no, I speak of the 4 chapters as like almost this timeline of the chiropractic professional, right? So, you know, that chapter 1 is when you're in school or first year out, when you're just trying to figure things out, right? And then there's chapter 2 when it's like head down and you're just going and growing. And then there's chapter 3, and that's when you recognize, okay, I need to start getting some scale going here. So it's scalability and durability, right? And then chapter 4 is when you recognize, I got to create some exit strategy here. There's got to be some level of transferability here. So chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. First thing I do is assess where a doctor is and if he's even thinking about chapters 2, 3, and 4. He or she.
Gotcha. Very good. Interesting sequence. So if we're talking about doctors who are, probably, chapter 3, chapter 4, but if we're in your vernacular, but if we're looking at, and you talked about this in your own experience, but a lot of UACers that I talk to, they have a sense of, they've hit big numbers. They're kind of holding the line there, but they face certain barriers to, and those barriers as far as being able to move them past where they are to get to a new level of the game. In other words, a lot of times people can like stretch past something and then they pull back, they stretch back, and they're playing like this kind of back and forth, almost like bumper cars on these artificial ceilings that are there. What do you think with practices that are way beyond survival, that are successful, but they hit their wall? What are the typical barriers that need to be identified, that are maybe blind spots that can help a chiropractor go from point A to point B who's already successful?
I love this question, Patrick, right? So, I'm a car guy, right? I love cars. I love sports cars. And I always look at a practice the way a mechanic looks at an engine, right? So I use I'll use a Porsche engine as an example. The Porsche Target 4 GTS is a 435 horsepower rated engine, right? It's going to produce 435 horses to the ground, right? But if you put that thing on a dynamometer, which is measuring exactly what's actually getting to the ground, it's going to be less than 435. It might be 428, it might be 431, whatever. And a good mechanic is going to try to figure out how he can get more horsepower out of that engine, right? So it's productivity, it's potential. So is there an airflow issue? Is there, is it running too lean, running too rich? Is there friction? Is there heat buildup? All that's robbing horsepower. And it's usually not just one thing, right? It's a combination of things. So they tune it, right, to get more horsepower out of it. Same thing with a practice. Every practice I look at, just like engine, it's like, you've got horsepower. There's a rating here and you've got potential to produce, right? So if you're not producing, I like to say that the natural state of a chiropractic practice is growth, right? So if you're not growing naturally, there's just something that's interfering with that growth. So we want to drill down and we want to find where's that interference. And I have a troubleshooting process that I take a practitioner or a practice through where I try to find where the rub is, where's the friction, where's the breakdown, right? So, it starts with vision. What does success look like? So you got to be able to talk me into it. So many of these doctors that are stuck and they're complaining about, I can't go to the next level, or I go to the next level and I fall back. It's just like, they don't have a really clear vision as what success looks like for them. That's a really dangerous place to operate, right? So no one else can tell you what your vision for success is. It's got to be an inside out experience. And it's typically, if you're married, it's a spouse, it's a family, everybody's got to be engaged in it. Like, really, what does success mean to you and what does it look like? And talk me into it. So I want to help you create it. Then once we say, no, vision's not my problem, then we'll get into leadership and say, okay, so let's look at the leader. Now, do you have the attributes of the person that is going to be able to predictably attract and lead and sustain that vision and manifest that vision? What level of certainty, what level of conviction, what level of clarity is going to be required for you to actually manifest that vision? And who do you need to become? I always like to say, what's your next best self, right? So be your own success story. Be the hero in your future success story, right? So I always ask myself, I look to my future self. I always say, what would the leader that I'm trying to become, what would he do right now? Or what would the doctor I'm trying to be, what would he say right now, right? And this can, of course, live outside of the practice and say, what would the father I'm trying to be, what would he say right now? What would the husband that I'm trying to become, what would he do right now, right? So it's a great construct, and it's very revealing for you as far as your level of leadership. And if a doctor says, no, that's not my trouble, that's not the issue, and then we go next on to systems. And I'll say, okay, so what kind of systems do you have in place? Is this a systems problem? Are we lacking a system, or do you have the wrong system, or a tired old system? Or do you have a Frankenstein bolted together crappy set of systems that you've picked up along the way? I mean, there's a systems problem, right? And you've got to have your systems for attraction, conversion, retention, and team building in play. So we assess their systems.
Break down those three. So these are the three phases for everything. It's all built on that. So repeat them, please.
So the 4 domains of the practice: attraction, conversion, retention, and team building. Okay. So obviously attraction is your marketing promotions, attracting potential new patients; conversion, converting people into ideal patients; and retention, collecting ideal patients. Then we get to the fourth one, which I added because what I figured out was top grading's right. 95% of your problems are people problems, right? You know it. I know it. We all experience it, which is why we love people like Krista. So 95% of problems are people problems. That should scare the shit out of you and get your attention. When you hear that, you're like, I have to become a people expert. Yes, you do, because 95% of your problems live there, right? So then it's, who's on my team? What does my team call for? Who do I want on my team? And what do those power players look like? What are the attributes that are required for each of those positions? And I'm a big advocate of having specialists on your team. I've always liked, hey, the check-in CA is a very specific archetype. I have my muse, I have my avatar. I know what they act like, behave like. Okay, I know what the checkout CA does. I know what that role requires, so I know how they behave, and I can recognize one, and I know how to test for them. Then I know the floor CA. I know what a tech CA acts like and sounds like, and I know the back office CA, right? So that you've got to know the roles in your team, just like you play basketball. The center is different than the shooting guard, which is different than the point guard, which is different than the shooting forward, which is different than the power forward, right? Everybody's got different positions. And, when they walk on the court, you can go, I guess you're the center and you're the point guard, right? I mean, you just recognize them. Same thing with your team players, okay? Now, once you get the right people on your bus, so to speak, as Jim Collins teaches, you got to get the right butts in the right seats on the bus. So get on the other side of the people problem. I would say that 100% of the chiropractors that I talk to have a people problem in their practice. They have a staph infection and they even know it, but they're terrified. They don't even know how to fix that. They're afraid to fire somebody because it's the devil, and their practice is, literally the front desk is such a foreign land to them with this quagmire of non-systems that they're terrified to let somebody go because they don't even know how to train somebody up, and replacing them. So that's a terrible place for a leader to operate from, where you're being held hostage by your team. So we're really trying to fix that for people and help them with that one. The next step,
I think, if I come out there, I'm sorry, I just want to comment on that for a minute. I think there's a lot of truth or accuracy there. In the UAC culture, everybody, is a good independent leader that on their sheer will and strength and ability, they can get to a certain level. But I would absolutely concur that next stage development is all about the team that they can build around them. And you might have exceptional skills with a limited team to carry this thing on your back. I literally, I won't disclose who, but I was talking to, a UAC member at a very high volume who doesn't have an associate, who to me is at extraordinary risk. With one little incident, if you can't show up and adjust, it's over. And you're also hitting that ceiling that says, I can't go past this. But I won't get into all the details as to why the associate's not in place yet. But basically the conclusion of the conversation was, go get a freaking associate now, and of course do it right. Which we're about next month's open office hangout. We're going to be talking about that, and I think it's an important area to dig into. We have many times on in the UAC sessions and the live sessions, we've got panels on it and have many discussions around it. But it's an ongoing discussion. And it's something that we still need to talk about. But I think in part, this goes to also something I heard recently, and you probably heard this, Stephen, because you did what's called Unbeatable Mind, right?
Seal Fit,
and with Mark Devine. Yeah, so it's a SEAL Fit. So I heard this is a saying in the Navy SEALs. I don't know if it's attributed to a particular person, but they said, the time comes, for action. You don't rise to the occasion. You devolve to your training, which means that it's not like, hey, we have to go from whatever we train at and we lift to a new level because it's game time, it is, nope, what happens is now that the heat is on, your training, the level of your training is going to dictate the competency of your actions. And I think that's very important, because it's one thing, of course, to hire staff, right? To make sure you do the right hires, which is immensely critical. But it's another thing. It's like patient retention, right? It's another thing to know how to properly compensate, motivate, lead, training very important, etc. So what's your feelings around that? We really got a few minutes left, but I'd love to get your quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the quick thought is this. From 0 to 150 a week is all about the doctor's training. From 150 to 300 a week is all about team training, right? And from 300 to 600 a week and beyond is all about patient training, right? So it's all about training, right? So, and this is the thing that patients, you've got to start those patients back here. You got to start the team back here, all the way through. So I can't say enough about training. It's the essence of everything I'm about, right? So we've gone vision, we've gone leadership, we've gone systems, we've gone people, then it's training. As you just said, it's everything about training your people and being equipped to train your people. Your people want to be developed. They want to be trained. I say train your people or bang your head against the wall. Your choice, right? So every hour that you spend training your team is a day off for you, right? So it's a full-on trade-off. So you got to train your people. And then the last one, of course, is energy. And you know this as well as I do. This is an energetic organism, right? So it's indescribable but undeniable. This is an energetic organism. Your energy's up, practice is up. Energy's flat, practice is flat. Energy's down, practice is down, right? So as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, as chief energy officers of our practice, we've got to be able to have that gas pedal under our right foot, and we got to be able to, at will, be able to modulate that energy of the practice, because that's what drives growth.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain period of time, and speaking from personal experience, there's a certain period of time where, you've got this unbridled energy, ambition, and you'll just keep running through brick walls to, get to whatever objectives you have to get to and to make things happen, etc. But the long-term sustainability, and I will say, when it comes time, and I've sold multiple businesses now, transacting, an exit, hypercritical on what is structured, the how can I put it, the stability of the system that's in place. All these things are going to have massive impact on valuation. So it really, and I love the way that you kind of had that broken down, saying, hey, it's doctor training 0 to 150, 150, 300, staff training, patient training. And then once you get past that, staff training. And then energy management.
You had it right. It's first doctors to 150, 150 to 300 is team and training them on your systems.
Oh, I'm sorry, team, and then it's patient training after.
Yeah, from 300 to 600 is patient training, teaching patients how to not only not interfere with your process, but participate in the mission. That's the key to that.
That's awesome. I haven't heard that breakdown before, and I really love it. So that's a great one. So overall, folks, I think a lot of takeaways, from what Stephen's been talking about here. I think, especially, the last point we're on here, talking about the critical aspect of training, and training is not just applied to any one dimension, but multiple dimensions. You, your staff, and your patients, and beyond, other stakeholders that might be in the business, et cetera, your community. So I think really, really rich content there, things to think about. I'd love to know how it relates to your experiences, right? Stephen, I very much appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come talk to us about what you're up to, sharing with us your wisdom as a UAC member. And if anybody, best way to get in touch with you, if anybody wants to contact you?
Best way to reach me is just reach out to me at Dr. Stephen at theremarkablepractice.com. So Dr. Stephen with a PH at theremarkablepractice.com. Or you can reach out to me now at Dr. Stephen at Chiro Matchmakers. And I know that you guys are going to get blessed with Dr. Alan Miner, my partner in Chiro Matchmakers, next month. We're getting the back-to-backer. So Alan's brilliant, man. He's a genius. He's one of the smartest guys we have in chiropractic. So just make sure that you're on that call. Alan does such a great job. He's such an enjoyable guy. He's such a solid guy. and he delivers huge value. So make sure you don't miss that call. He's going to blow your mind with what he knows about team building, and now specifically what we're doing with helping people find associate doctors for their practices to do the scalability piece.
Yeah, so thanks, for the tease. Next month, we are going to have on our monthly Mastermind Hangout, Dr. Al Miner. Alan's got a whole lot of experience in chiropractic, multiple practices, and the political side. And what I love about him is he's got how can I put it? He's got an entrepreneurial brain that he just can't shut off. So
he makes me come. He makes me come. I just hang around. I'm not completely crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The question is, I don't understand why he has hair and we don't. It should be the other way around.
Yeah,
so
Alan is fantastic.
He really is a phenomenal human being. So actually, I look forward to a few weeks seeing you and Alan out in Napa Valley, as well as the rest of the people that are coming there. It was great. Kim Lee John joined. Great to see you in Australia. Thank you for signing in or coming on here. And whatever part you might have missed in the beginning, you can catch on the replay. So for everybody, there is a replay. You can catch it. Always here to serve in any way we can. Love the UAC community. Let's keep building it out. Let's keep supporting each other. Let's keep sharing ideas, and let's have a great experience together. Krista, as always, thanks for making everything happen the way it does.
Yes,
And
Krista, you're awesome.
Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody next month, if not before. So have a great one, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen.